it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have the usual suspect of Spigs 18 or Anthony, and a very lovely special guest. But just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch, subscribe to us over on YouTube. We really appreciate all the support we've gotten so far. But yeah, if you haven't already, be sure to go and like and subscribe. But without further ado, Anthony, what are we doing here tonight?
First off, Happy New Year, everybody. I know it's been a while since we even streamed, did a YouTube video. So, welcome back to see you. We miss you guys, and we have a very special episode today on Cypher Unlimited. We have our favorite guest of all time, our most viewed, our green jacket wearer, Sean K Reynolds of Monte Cook Games, and he's coming on to talk to us and answer all your questions on everything Numenera. Unless you live it under a rock, they've been advertising a future Backerkit crowdfund coming up, all about Numenera. Numenera Return to the Ninth World. With the Cypher system getting a brand new revision coming soon, and it only makes sense for the same treatment, for Monte Cook Games' most beloved and flagship setting. Numenera, for those who may not know, basically started Monte Cook Games with a super successful crowdfund project via Kickstarter around 2012, I believe. It introduced what will later be known as the Cypher system to thousands of fans and has created a world that told thousands of stories and adventures across so many different game tables.
Yep. So let's give a warm welcome to Sean K Reynolds. If you've been around, you probably know who he is. If you're new here, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. I'll give him a chance to say hello in a second. Let me just give a preamble. He's going to answer some questions about Numenera. We got questions from the community via our Discord, Blue Sky, Facebook, our various social medias. But yeah, say hello, Sean, and thank you for coming on to answer these questions.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. As usual, I love hanging out with you guys and answering questions about our games.
It's gonna get serious. Hey, guys, if you have any questions for Sean about Numenera or hell anything else, just post it in the chat and put question in front of it, so me and Al will know to copy and paste it onto our doc, so we'll know that it's actually not a question and you're just making a scary statement. So, Sean, are you ready for this bombardment of Numenera questions?
I'm ready, Freddie. I actually read most of them over the course of yesterday and today, and most of them are really, really good. So I'm looking forward to talking about these.
You want to go first, Al, or you want me to go?
I can dive in. Let me just scroll back to the top because I went to a spot to make room for audience questions. So with the first question we got here is from Broken Witch, maybe Broken Witch, but yeah. Sorry if I mispronounce it, whatever, but from Discord. And their question is, I currently own Old Gods of Appalachia and the Magnus Archives RPGs, but none of the other games or main Cypher core stuff. Should I go with the current Cypher starter set or just do the new edition? Thanks.
Well, that's not really a question about Numenera, but if you know how to play Old Gods and you know how to play the Magnus Archives, you basically know how to play any of our Cypher games. They're all very, very compatible. So you could pick up Numenera, you could pick up the Cypher System starter set. You'd be good to go. If you wanted to wait until the new Cypher version comes out later this year, you could also do that. But the books are really, really compatible, and feel free to just pick them up and mix and match stuff. They work together just fine.
Hey, I'll just piggyback on that question. I know it never came up on the Backerkit for the new Cypher, but as we have the creator of the original Cypher starter set, is there any talk going on of doing a revised starter set now that you're going to have a revised Cypher system?
I certainly would like to. I think it actually wouldn't take much just to update the starter set. So we'll see.
All right. I actually, because you actually helped me, but I actually ran all the starter set adventures on the CU Discord, and it was a big hit. Everybody loved it. Great. So this is from Afterburner Zero on the Discord. They ask, which, if any, small aspects of the current Numenera books will be expanded on?
Well, so we haven't started writing this yet. And we've got like a vague outline of the new Numenera core book, and core book is not really the best term for it. But we want to make sure that people who have all the Numenera stuff already get to see new things. But we also want to make sure that people who are coming in new to Numenera learn about the stuff that everyone else knows about, like the Steadfast and the Beyond and Vargellen and things like that. So we're going to be working really hard to make it a good mix of stuff that you've seen before, but also stuff that's new. We don't want to just keep repeating, copy pasting into a new book.
Makes sense.
That sounds great.
Next question here is from Wampy on Discord. And this is a pretty good one, I think. Will the new Cypher book be needed, or will the Numenera books, be independent from the Cypher system?
I don't think I'm telling a spoiler here. We are going to make Numenera a setting book that is not a standalone. So it'll be like Predation or Gods of the Fall. You'll need the Cypher character rulebook for the rules and how to play the game. And Numenera will have the setting material and like probably new ciphers specific to Numenera, new types, descriptors, and foci for Numenera, etc. But you'll need the CCR for the regular rules.
I'm like gobsmacked by that answer. I'm like, wow, that's surprising.
I mean, I'm not surprised because we've been privy to have conversations before, but I think this is the first time it's actually been said out loud on our stream.
If I get fired tomorrow and Monty watches this, then you'll know why.
So, you know, and that question comes up a lot. So I'm glad we actually have it on recording. And Bear can clip this now.
I even said to Sean, you're fired. Bear in chat. It's preemptively fired. Sorry, Sean. It's nice knowing you. But that's awesome, though. I do love that change. I will say that. And a lot of people in the chat are saying like they like that idea. But yeah, that's awesome to hear. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I know that idea was kicked around a ton of times. I heard that actually several months ago. But I'm with chat. Everybody in chat seems super excited about this, and I'm totally on board with this decision. I think
it makes sense because we got so many people who love Numenera and love other Cypher system stuff, and there's no reason to make you rebuy, here's the rules on how effort works. It's like, you know how to do that. Numenera and Cypher are the same game. We don't need to repeat all that stuff. We can just focus on making the Numenera stuff awesome.
Yeah, that sounds hella cool. Eagle94VT on our Discord asks, this is a long one. Ciphers are naturally quite random, and that is part of the fun. Have you ever thought to create a few themes or clues as to what a cipher may do? It could be a skill, a foci feature, or general knowledge. An example might be a region had a large alien structure that is long gone, but it becomes general knowledge that in this area. Things with an aqua glow tend to be associated with fire. I've wondered for people that live predominantly in one area, they may become more knowledgeable about some properties, making ID and crafting easier. In some ways, it's a small geographical area with more awareness. I guess it's basically localized ciphers.
Really what I would call that, using the previous edition of Numenera and previous edition Cypher, is you call that like a medium-term advancement. Like in the same way you could spend a couple of XP to say, I'm really good at climbing the mountain range that I grew up in. You have you're trained in that skill. You could say, yeah, you know what, in the area that I grew up in, for example, whether it's the Glimmering Valley or whatever, you're familiar with the Numenera that's in that area. And so you could get training in that and apply it to any sorts of role relating to the Numenera. We'll probably handle it a slightly different way with the new Cypher. That might be something you'd spend resource points on just to familiarize yourself with a local bit of data, but I could totally see that.
Good answer.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yep.
What is it? Next question here is from Discord again. It's from a user named Christian. Dirt Say Hi, I believe is his username. But either way, Christian, hi, you're a great man. Either way, their question is: first edition had 1 base book, second had 2. Will this now end up with 3? Question mark.
I mean, I get the joke you're making, but really, you only need the CCR to play Cypher, and you really only need the CCR to run Cypher. Because if you are an experienced GM, you know all about setting difficulties. I mean, you get a lot more advice about that in the GM rulebook. But if you really want to just be like, I can have the super tight focus on this one book, there you go. The GM's book is additional stuff. I'm actually developing the artifacts chapter right now. Has tons of new artifacts, that sort of thing, new creatures. So I think what you would consider a core book really depends on what role you have in the game and the campaign. Like, you might not need a setting book if your GM is making their own setting.
Or you, like me and many other people on the server, that you need every single book that's produced ever made by Monte Cook Games. Just give it to us all.
I mean, I'm the same way, and I work for them, so got my big stack of PDFs. All my books go down in the basement because I don't really need to reference them by flipping through pages, but I have all the PDFs just right on hand, often bookmarked on my screen, so I can pull up a particular chapter from the Cypher rulebook to look at ciphers, etc.
Oh, this is actually a good lead-in question. Blood Vein on the CU Discord asks, can we still use the older books? Will the new books be fully compatible with the older one?
Yeah, we're not, I mean, in the same way that old Cypher stuff is compatible with the new Cypher stuff, like the main change is what you get for your types and what you get for foci, etc., and the damage by creatures. But there's no reason why you couldn't have the new Numenera. I'm going to keep calling it a core book because we don't have a good name for it yet. But there's no reason you couldn't have the new Numenera book and use something like Ninth World Mystery 2 and have monsters from it, because the Cypher rules tell you a monster of this level does this many wounds. And you make it work. It's on the fly. It's very easy. Yeah, we're not invalidating the old library of stuff, because there's a lot of good stuff in there, and we don't want to be in the business of, every 5 years we get to redo this one particular book, and you're buying the same description of the city, the same description of these creatures, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you have those books. We know that.
I'm very excited to see that conversion table, and I know there's already people like thinking of their own, like trying to like play test it. So yeah, definitely excited to see what the official conversion table ends up looking like.
And the thing is, even if GMs come up with their own version, that's totally fine. Like, you could say as a GM, you know what, I want this to be a less lethal game, and so creatures of level 1 through 6 are going to inflict a minor wound, and creatures of 7, 8, 9 are going to inflict a moderate wound, and then 10 or higher, that's a major wound, because I want to have a low power, low stakes sort of campaign. And that's totally fine. I mean, that's one of the beauties of Cypher, is that it's just so easily customizable to make it the sort of game that you want to run.
Another thing with the Numenera specifically, and if we talk about like the Into books and stuff like that, those are 75, 80% lore, and that's always compatible no matter what edition. The lore, you might have to do 1 or 2 minor tweaks, but anything Numenera lore-wise is fully compatible.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it you or it's you?
Yeah, I'm on the next one, yeah. Sorry, I had to scroll because I copy and pasted an audience questions, but I got it right here. So next question here is from Discord again, from Mick Mackin. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name. But question is, while MCG has made a wonderful decision in being a company with zero AI in its design and work processes, technology themes including AI have always been a potential theme to explore within Numenera. With the impacts of AI in the real world that we've seen in the last 2 to 3 years, has that had any influence on how AI and technology themes are explored in Numenera's universe?
Well, I think the big takeaway from this question is that what we call AI in the real world isn't really AI. It's a large language model. It's not actual artificial intelligence. And so if you want to have a story in a game or a story in a television show or a novel where AI lies all the time, or makes up answers, or is just wrong, or is kind of insane and does horrible things. We have a lot of precedent for that in fiction. We have a lot of precedent for that in LLMs that they're calling AI. I mean, them calling it AI is just marketing. They could just call it turbo knowledge. It's the same meaningless sort of thing. So you can take any aspect of that and put it into your Numenera campaign. And we have real AIs in Numenera that are actually like, genius little creatures that are millions of years old, or humanoid robots that are brand new. Things like Voices of the Datasphere have AIs living in the datasphere that have different morals and ethics, and some of them are less sane than others and are willing to break a lot of rules. So any sort of story you want to tell with AI, whatever you're using to influence AI in your definition of that, totally applies to Numenera. And I think it's just a question of what you're comfortable with and what sort of thing you want to do in the story.
The beauty about Numenera is that even if it isn't in the current world, it could have been one of the previous 8 worlds that had it. So you could always fit it in. And that applies to pretty much everything.
Yep.
All right. So Andrew B asks, is this a full-on replacement for Discovery and Destiny, or a supplementary update to bring those 2 books in line with the new Cypher rules?
I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that question, but you will not need Discovery and Destiny with this book. You could use Discovery and Destiny in parallel with them in the same way that you could use your original Numenera core book with Discovery and Destiny. Like, again, the compatibility of the various rules books are very, very strong. But this will be the updated. This is your starting point for Numenera. If you haven't done any other Numenera stuff, this is a great place to come in. If you do have other Numenera stuff and you're like, I really want to see how MCG will do types and foci for Numenera, because if you've seen the early access document, there are tons of things that aren't in that are very Numenera. And so we have room in Numenera to explore and expand those things. So if you want those things, that's what this book is for.
Makes a lot of sense. Next question here from TJ Sear on Blue Sky. Their question is, with unlimited time and resources, what underdeveloped part of Numenera rules or lore have you always wanted to see expanded?
So in my D&D days as a writer, I got to be known as the Gods guy. I wrote a bunch of Gods articles for Greyhawk, a bunch of Gods stuff for Forgotten Realms, for Paizo's Galarian setting, and so on. And so I've always kind of had an interest in like what the gods of Numenera would be, even though they're not like fantasy gods. They're not actually divine beings. They don't, grant spells and stuff. But in the same way that we have the voices of the Datasphere, they have these incredibly powerful entities, and they can grant powers to people in exchange for things. I think it'd be interesting to talk about, hey, in this particular region, there are some powerful AIs that have these abilities, and people do worship them as gods. And what sort of effect does that have on the psychology of that country and their interactions with others? Because like a fantasy game setting, if you have a god and they're actually having tangible effects on the world, like, oh, they're healing people, they're blasting enemies with fire, that's a real thing. It's not like 2 different philosophies. It's an actual tangible effect on the world. And I love to see how a creature like a god who doesn't have the same accountability as a mortal creature has influence on the world. That's my personal interest.
That would be hella cool too. And you never really touched on that in Numenera, which surprisingly, I would think that we would have seen something like that.
The closest is the voices from I guess they appeared in Vertices, were the voices that we came from the Datasphere, and how they had influence on those different sites, because they were just barely starting to reach out of the Datasphere into the meat space of things. But I could write a whole book on wacky stuff. That's the fun thing about Numenera, is there's so many weird little corners of, oh, what if you pull on this thread? Oh, there's a whole book there.
You are not wrong.
TJ Sia also asked on Blue Sky, were there any deliberate Easter eggs in any of the Numenera books which have gone unnoticed by fans?
Well, I haven't talked to every single fan, so I don't know. But there's plenty of stuff that we have hinted at, and that even in the first Numenera core book, there was a backer level where you could insert your own character into the world. And so there are some named characters in the world that are actually a particular backer's personal character. And I don't know if those have all been called out or identified.
That's a good one. I
Nice.
actually didn't know that. That's cool. All right. Next question here is from Peter L on Facebook. And their question is, what is the biggest change in design from this new edition to what we have in Discovery and Destiny?
Well, we haven't started designing it yet. So we have the Cypher core rulebook, Cypher character rulebook, and we're working on the GM's guide. And we're going to take the concepts and design philosophies of those and apply them towards Numenera. And one of the things is we want character creation to be a lot easier, and other aspects of the game that could be really cumbersome, like crafting, could be a lot easier. So crafting now in Cypher, you're just using resource points. And given that Numenera has the type like the right, their whole thing is crafting, they're really going to be all about using resource points. And so we have a precedent for that in the Cypher character rulebook of you're a character, you have resource points, you can do the following things that other characters can't. I'm looking forward to taking that sort of idea and taking some big, like, Numenera is just such a detail-oriented place. You've got different kinds of iota, and you've got all these things that fit together. Can we simplify that so you're not having to spend like making 8 rolls to make a level 8 Cypher? Can you just spend a resource point and make it happen? So I think the idea of let's make the game easier to play and run, that's the biggest change. I mean, Numenera is like 13 years old, 14 years old now, so we've learned a lot in the various iterations of the rules. We can take our better understanding of how the game works and how the game plays and apply that to what's going on upcoming.
Having read the new Cypher system, the playtest material the guys sent out to us, I really love how you added some complexity in some areas, but removed complexity in others. So you still have that overall balance that, the original Cypher system had and, we all love. So, yeah. It's just great hearing all that.
And the thing is, like, the game, the different versions of the game, and whether you're talking about Cypher or Numenera, they're still compatible enough that in the same way that you could have a Jack from the original Numenera core book and a Jack from Numenera Discovery, you could have a person who says, I actually really like doing the multiple roles and all the details of putting all this stuff together to craft an item from Numenera Destiny. I don't want to have the simpler version. But you can have a person who's like, you know what, I don't want to deal with all the rolling. I just want to be able to go like produces a gizmo like Batman. And there you go. So you can have both of those things and they're still engaging with the same concept of the rules.
Wampy on Discord asks, which is actually a great lead-in, will the 6 character classes still exist or will they be basic Cypher system ones?
I think if we do not have custom types in the Numenera book for the Numenera setting, we have made a big mistake and we'd be dumb to do that. Like, I want to see a Numenera glaive type, probably more than one, because the types in the CCR are pretty specific. You've got the axe fighter, the bow fighter, that sort of thing. Like, we need to have a melee sort of glaive. We want to have a ranged combat sort of glaive, and you can have a delve and a nano and a right and an Arcus and that sort of thing. So we're going to have new types for the book, and we're not going to. Again, we haven't written this yet, so you probably, depending on how the GM wants to have the flavor of their game, they could say, you know what, I'm running a dungeon fantasy Numenera game. So you can use these Numenera types, or you can draw on the dungeon fantasy types if you want.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how the new types play out, because I know a lot of people, like, again, Numenera is super, popular as a setting, and people really get into their character types. So, like, again, like you said, it would be a huge mistake to not include those. Yeah. Oh, man. But next question on the list here, it is from Christian again on Discord. And they ask, will the new crowdfunding campaign also come with a full playable campaign or two?
So I'm at the risk of being fired. I'm not going to tip our hand on that, but I do know, and I have paid attention to social media and CU, and we know that a lot of people want more adventures for Numenera, and not just short adventures. They want another long-term campaign like Double Spine or Stays the Machine God. And I will say, we hear you, and I think you'll be very happy once the list of initial books is announced.
I mean, Sean, about the firing, it's too late. Bear already said in chat that he snitched you out to Monty.
I can't be double fired, so.
Bear ratted you out like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. That jerk.
Anonymous on Discord asks, regarding world building, will this be largely a repackaging of setting material from the first few Numenera editions, or will they be brand new lore world building from beyond those listed in the first few core books?
So it'll be a mix of both, because a lot of people are going to want to continue their campaign in the Steadfast or where they're exploring the Beyond. But a lot of people also want to see new areas to explore. Like, we opened up an entirely new area in Numenera character options, where it's those weird, like, three-legged people that eat humans and that sort of thing. And like, we're ready to give you new areas to explore in the Ninth World. Like, I know we've printed, several hundred pages of stuff, but it's an entire world that's there. And there's so much more that we had not even, gotten rid of the fog of war on the map for yet. Or the fog of war is at from 10,000 miles in the air, and you don't really know what's down there. Like, we have so much we can add to and explore. And even if it's stuff like, here are a bunch of interesting villages that you could drop into any Numenera campaign in any part of the world, you can do that, because so much of Numenera is, our people live in this village, we don't go much farther out there. Your characters are the weirdos who go out and explore these dangerous areas. And you know what? If you've mapped out a whole lot of a particular country in your campaign, and the characters turn around and suddenly there's a new village there, guess what? Numenera's weird. Did that drop out of another dimension? Was there a bit of machine that swapped two pieces of land? Like, you can always come up with an explanation of, oh yeah, this village that has history of 100 years is now here, and it's new to you.
I think that idea a lot. It's very similar to, what is it? I'm butchering the name because I'm blanking on what it actually is. Elomir, like the city.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just something you can just
Elomir.
plop down somewhere, like anywhere you'd like in your campaign. People love that concept, and me included. And especially as someone who doesn't always run like the adventure material as is, having those pieces to drag and drop as I please. That's chef's kiss.
You mentioning Elomir actually reminds me of a little Easter egg. So the name Elomir of that little village actually comes from Monte Cook's Home Invisible Sun narrative, the first one that he did for us. Elomir was the name of a person that was an NPC that we interacted with as part of one of our character arcs. Monty liked the name so much that he decided to go and name the town of that expansion after him.
That's a good Easter egg.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's cool. But next question here, and again from Mike Mackin on Discord. They ask, will we see further info on surreal spaces like the Liminal Shore, or digitized spaces like the Datasphere, or a whole new angle into into an altogether new design space?
Well, to repeat myself, we haven't started writing it yet. But we want to bring, new things to the setting. We want to keep surprising people with new bits of the weird. So I would not be surprised if we have a little dip your toe into the Datasphere, or some parallel dimension, or some sort of intertemporal interaction. Like, that's the basis of Numenera. Can it be weirder? Yes, let's do that.
Lost on Discord asks, what is, in your opinion, one of the most interesting places in the Ninth World that ought to be explored?
I mean, that's a hard one. Again, we've written so much, and and Bruce and Shauna and Monty and I have all had our fingers dirty in various different parts of the setting. And often it's like a little one-off, one-sentence mention in a section of something that makes a GM go, "Oh, I want to go and have that be like the key part of my campaign." And we like to leave those little things in because we want you to have the tools and resources to make your Numenera campaign your campaign. And so if there's this little bit that we haven't like developed past that, kind of want to leave that there just so that some GM out there who has made that the basis of their campaign, we're not contradicting what they've said. So instead, we just keep adding more stuff like that.
I mean, that's what I love about all your setting books, to be honest. Not only Numenera the Strange, you leave it vague enough for me to play around in. You know, like, don't get me wrong, I love, like, the Forgotten Realms. I grew up on that stuff. But at a point in time, they just basically, everything is fleshed out. So then there's no room for me to grow. And then you feel, as a GM, on even in your own personal table, you feel like you're effing up the canon in some way, you know? But when it's vague like that, you could go in any direction you want as a GM, and the players at the table could incorporate it into the narrative, and then it becomes our game.
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely feel that. I fully agree with your sentiment there, Anthony. But let me go again with the next question here, and then I'll copy the question we just got in the chat. But Captain Superior from Discord asks, since the original edition of Numenera, I was wondering if there would be expanded character options for players to be able to play more of the cool creatures in the bestiaries, like the, and I'm probably going to butcher the names here, Golthiers, Blocks, etc. were in the character options. I was also wondering if there would ever be generic abhuman descriptor or tools to make one. Based on the genetic diversity we see from them in the ninth world, I imagine it would be a table of options like mutant is? ?
So that's really a three-part question, because we have a lot of sapient creatures that, you know, are as intelligent as humans. They have culture, they have their own settlements, that sort of thing. And the question is could we create a game roll bit for a Golthier as a PC? And I think one nice thing that the new Cypher does for species is that it makes a new species just really easy to create. You just get like a few very simple abilities, and it just gets added onto your character sentence. Specifically for abhumans, the thing about abhumans is they have rejected their humanity. Like, they have gone out of their way to say, no, we are not humans, we are our own thing, we hate humanity, we want to eat them and destroy them. And like, it's like playing a Dark Elf character in the Forgotten Realms. Like, if you aren't Dritsto Erden, everyone's going to say, you are a Dark Elf, you worship the Demon Spider Goddess, you are an enemy of the Surface World people, we're not going to tolerate you in our area. And so even if your abhuman is the 1 in a million who has rejected that, it says, no, I actually want to try and get along with humans, how many, you know, inches of text in a book do we want to devote to that 1 in a million option? But related to that, like, there's a mutant descriptor, I think, in the Cypher to Character rulebook that has very simplified rules for playing a mutant in I think a space opera sort of setting. But that's very, very simplified. And Numenera has a much more like random and wild sort of setup for mutant characters. And I think that if we were to do mutant as an option for the new Numenera, I would treat it more like the android type, which we have for the hard science fiction genre, where it's like, you are an android, these are the 3 abilities you get from being an android at tier 1. And so for a mutant, you'd say, you get these 3 abilities, and one of those abilities might be pick a low-powered cipher, or pick something from this mutation table. They're all, and so that's one of the fun things about Cypher, is that there's so many different ways you can make your version of a character. If you want to have an abhuman who's just like, you know, brash, you say, yes, I'm an abhuman, and brash is my descriptor, and everything else you would never know in terms of game mechanics. Or I'm taking the abhuman species and I'm getting these abilities. Or I'm making an abhuman type and work with my GM to come up with specific things for my character. There's so many ways to do that. Or, maybe your abhuman stuff comes from your focus.
That's why we love Cypher System to begin with, because you just rattled off like 5 different ways of creating the same type of character. and I think that's the fun on the server when someone says, hey, how do I do this? And then we get 4 or 5 people building exactly what you asked for, but using 4 or 5 different methods. And that's what makes Cypher hella cool.
And that's something we ran into when working on the Cypher character rulebook, because Monty kept asking, well, does it matter that we can have a person who says, I want to play barbarian, and they choose barbarian as their type and master's weaponry as their focus, versus a character who says, no, I'm going to choose axe fighter as my type and rages as my focus. Which of those is the better barbarian? And the answer is really whichever one suits your concept of the character more. Like, is your barbarian your kind of starting point and then you master weaponry? Or are you just a person who's good with axes and your expansion is into the I'm really all about raging? And those are both valid.
I love how you described that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
No, just that I love how he described that. Like, there's no wrong way to make the same guy. It really is the players, how they want to play their character. It's amazing.
Jennifer T on Facebook asks, who from the MCG team will be working on which aspects of the new book for Numenera?
So there's going to be multiple books. Like, there's going to be the core book that you need. I talked about adventures, and there's going to be some other interesting things that we're doing as part of this crowdfund. And we all kind of get our hands dirty in various bits of it. And since we aren't starting on it just yet, I can't really say who's going to be, but I know that, like, I'm wrapping up Electric Sun for Invisible Sun for the next couple of months. Bruce is wrapping up some Magnus Archive stuff and then is working on The Strange. And then Sean has done a lot of the initial outlining for the Numenera books, but she's also working on Predation. So we are all going to finish up on those various projects over the next few months, and we're going to see how Terry can fit our schedule together and say, all right, should we start on Foci first? Should we see what the regional kind of setting material can, what of that needs to be updated, et cetera. So generally the answer is going to be all of us. But I don't have specifics as to who's going to be working on what chapter, for example. And often those things are split. Like, Bruce might do half the ciphers and I'll do the other half.
Makes sense. Next question here, again from Christian on Discord, and it is a 2-parter question. Will the new edition describe a different area or different time? And the second part of the question is, will it be primarily the Steadfast? Will it be the same state as the previous books, or will it be a different area of the subcontinent, or will it handle sometime later with different events happen in the past, like Slaves of the Machine God?
So for the first one, like I said in the earlier question, we're going to cover the Steadfast, we're going to cover the Beyond, and we're going to have some new stuff to explore. In terms of whether we're going to be updating the timeline, I really don't think so. Like, I would not want to be a GM who's been running a campaign in Key for the past 12 years, and they pick up the new Numenera book and says, oh, by the way, the Iron Wind has just obliterated half of it. It's like, that didn't happen in my campaign. Why did you do that to my game? I would much rather give people the options to incorporate things into their own home Numenera campaign without overriding any stuff that the GMs have done. Like, if we say Slaves of the Machine God has happened and it is done, and therefore this section of the world is now affected by that, well, people who've played through Slaves of the Machine God go, cool, but people who haven't go, do I need to buy that adventure, or should I just forget about that adventure because it's already been decided in this book? Again, it's just like, we just kind of freeze it at this point in time and give you more things that you can add to your campaign, and the GM can just say, yeah, that didn't happen in mine, or that hasn't happened yet. Or it might happen in the past. A lot of stuff I'm doing in my personal Invisible Sun campaign, the players don't know, but there's like versions of them from the future coming back to the present and doing things. And there's echoes of that happening from the past, where they're like memories are reappearing from past events that they didn't know about originally. So Numenera is a weird place. Make it all work.
We got to put that in a t-shirt. Numenera is a weird place. Make it all work. I think I lost you guys for a second. Am I frozen?
No,
No, you're good.
We can
Oh,
see
okay.
you. We can see and hear you.
Afterburner on Discord asks, how much content will be remastered and how much will be brand new? One of the great things about the setting is how weird it is. Playing it is something I thoroughly enjoy. But a common criticism I see of the setting is that GMs only are familiar with typical fantasy really struggle with making things weird.
So, like we said, you're going to have stuff on the Steadfast and the Beyond. And if you look at Numenera Discovery, the setting material in terms of geography and cities and stuff like that is about 100 pages. And if you look at Predation and Gods of the Fall, those books are like 200, 190 something, 222, something like that. So you could cover just that material and still have 40 additional pages. But I think it's a kind of a, like, again, I'm not giving you exact numbers on page cuts because we haven't even done this. And who knows, maybe part of the crowdfund, we hit a stretch goal and the book is bigger. I don't know. But we want to cover the Steadfast and the Beyond because that's kind of the core of where we've invested all this time, and everybody's information is about those areas. I'm sorry, would you repeat the second part of the question? Because I rambled a bit and I lost the thread.
All right, hold on, let me go back up.
No, the weird. Talking about the weird. So if you look at Discovery, and I did a search on the PDF this morning, like so many of the different countries say, "Oh, here's weird stuff about this. Here's weird stuff about that." Like we put that information in there. In the Neon Rain source book, I added a whole section on GM intrusions and player intrusions just to give you genre appropriate things of ways of introducing cyberpunk dystopia and all that sort of stuff, whether you're from the player or from the GM's perspective. And I think it would be great if we had just a section in one of these books that talked about here's just a whole bunch of wacky, weird ideas that you can introduce anywhere. And we've got things like there's a glimmer, like introducing the weird. So we'll probably point at that. But like, yeah, let's bring in the world, bring in the more. Like we want to teach, again, like you said, fantasy, there are people used to traditional fantasy, making that weird. Let's give people the tools to crack that in their head and then vomit it out into their version of the game.
So with that answer, you kind of answered the next question. Are you a psychic? Let me go ahead and read the next question. And yeah, you basically answered it though. They have a preamble and then they have the question, but this is from Cathasis on Discord. Sorry if I mispronounced that. But while the Weird Book and deck and the Numenera Weird deck are great tools, I feel a resource like that should at least be integrated somewhat into the core book, because you can't expect people to buy an extra resource if their initial games with just the core book leave them struggling for something which many would consider essential to the setting. And then the question, will there be tools and or tables to help GMs and even players generate weird things on the fly within the core books for characters, environments, technology, fauna, flora, etc.?
Yeah, so I guess we've answered that. Like whether it's in a core book or it's some supplemental sort of thing. I mean, not even including like the fact that we have the Weird as a book and the Weird deck, which is actually, not even a duplicate of the stuff in the Weird. I could see room to have another thing that's just, hey, let's talk about making even more weird things for Numenera. Like let's talk more about GM intrusions and flavoring them with unique Numenera flavor. Yeah. So anyway, we hear you. Totally get that question. And yes, much of the fun of Numenera is just the weirdness of it. And we want people to have plenty of stuff in their back pocket to go, oh, you think you've seen it all? How about this thing?
Atlas on Discord he asked a two-part question, but the second part of the question was about mutants as a descriptor, and we kind of talked about that already. So I'm only going to ask the first part. For any folks learning Numenera this January as part of the new Game Master Month, how will you advise them to proceed in terms of internalizing how Cypher System works currently within Numenera? That's actually a good question since new Game Master Month is, right around the corner.
I mean, Numenera came before Cypher System. Cypher System evolved out of Numenera. So if you understand how to play or run the Cypher System game, whether that's the version that's out now or the early access material or what's coming out later this year, like, you've got it. Like, ciphers, that's from Numenera. GM intrusions, making complications and encounters, that's from Numenera. Artifacts and being weird, like the names of things in the Cypher System core book, those are Numenera names for ciphers and artifacts. So you've already got it. If you have taken in the Cypher System information, you are ready to run Numenera.
Nice. I think this is our last question now. And
Do
then
you want me to ask the last question?
Yeah.
Because I think it's funny too. All right, so the last question we'd have here, and it's from Spigs18 from the Cypher Unlimited Discord. And Spigs18 asks, since the new Numenera will be more in line with the new Cypher rules, who will have the pleasure of converting the 3 books of monsters that Numenera currently have? And do you think we will have a new bestiary included in this backer kit?
So I don't think we need to actually update the Numenera bestiaries. Like, we made a new version of the Cypher System bestiary as part of the new Cypher crowdfund. But Bruce took like just a few days to make individual changes to the damage ratings for all those creatures. And like, that's how little work needs to be done. I think you'll just be able to use the existing bestiaries with the new Numenera content. And I guess I'll just say, not it. We'll have Bruce do it. And sorry, again, I've lost the thread. What's the second part of that?
Do you think we'll have an entirely new bestiary in the back?
Yeah, I don't want to get fired 3 times during this chat, so I will not answer that question. But like the one question about adventures, I think you will all be happy with the list of things that are launched as the...
You could snitch Bear out, because he wrote a new bestiary would be pretty cool in the chat, though.
Yeah, Bear, you're fired.
We'll turn around and say Bear guaranteed it.
There we go.
We'll get AI to edit that. All right, so we got a couple of. If you still got a little time with us, Sean, we have a couple of questions for the chat. So King Burgundy asks, so one thing happening with the new Cypher is that abilities have been pared down a bit. Players get less as they tier up than before. Is that the same methodology going to be followed with Numenera? Some initial flavorful abilities at tier 1 for the types, but after that, you're looking at a couple genre pool abilities or whatever your focus gives you?
Again, we haven't started designing this yet, but that is the philosophy from the CCR, is that like most of your variability comes from your focus. But that said, we're going to have a bunch of new Numenera types, and they're going to have their various abilities. And Numenera, science fantasy, is going to be a genre. And I would expect that we're going to have a new set of mid-tier and high-tier genre abilities for the Numenera book that anybody can choose from, just like any fantasy character could choose from the fantasy ones. And as a person who's run a game that is very fast and loose with that sort of thing, like my tallest game actually started out as a Numenera game. And after tier 1, I just said, if you guys really want to and you want to pick up an ability from a different type, you can, whether you are a Numenera character or a fantasy tallest character. And so the fact that the new version of Cypher basically says anybody can just start learning abilities from the genre list, that means that every character in Numenera could potentially learn the weird stuff without having to be locked into Glaives only do this, Jacks only do this, Nanos get all the crazy stuff.
Good answer.
I think you're next, Al.
Yep. And we got a question from the lovely Jason C, so Shadow Main. They ask, how do you keep track of all the lore across all the supplement adventures? Is there a Numenera complete database behind the scenes at MCG?
There is not, but I often refer to my brain as my machine brain, and I have a ridiculous memory for knowing weird details of things, which is that's why I'm such a good developer, because I can see an ability and go, I think we did a version of this before. And it turns out, yeah, we have this ability from this book from 5 years ago that might even not even be from the same line. Like Sean's like, oh, I found this. Like Sean did this a lot for Old Gods of Appalachia. He's like, oh, here's this really cool ability. And I'm like, that's from Numenera. You just changed the name on it. Okay. It also helps that we have PDFs of everything. And so I have a big MCG design folder on my computer. And if I'm like, mutants, where have we talked about mutants? And I can just search that folder and look at all these bits about mutants. Or like, where have we revealed things about the Beyond or Vertices or whatever? You can search that. So, if we had, maybe that'll be a task for an intern someday to go and compile all this stuff. But it'd have to be an intern we don't like, because that'd be a lot of hard work.
I'm actually shocked by that, because Numenera's lore is like 40 books deep at least.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, it's super surprising. Y'all don't have like a compiled things of like lore important details. You just kind of, you said the mental machine or whatever. It's crazy.
I mean, we do have moments where someone will be like, I can't remember. Did we talk about a blah blah blah? And we'll post it in our Slack, and someone will pop up and like, oh, actually, that was in a website article. Here's the link, because we've all just worked on different bits and we all retain different bits of information. Like Monty refers to it as his external brain. It's like, I don't need to remember X, Y, and Z, because someone else on the team will remember that for me.
Chow Fox asks, if the 10th world started to bleed into the 9th from the future, would it be hostile or friendly? And how would you implement mechanically something like the data sphere or something entirely different?
I mean, if you're talking about a more technologically advanced culture interacting with a less one, Earth's history shows time and time again that the less technologically advanced culture gets the short end of the stick for that. And so unless you're talking about like someone in the future is messing with the past to be altruistic about something, like to prevent some sort of terrible disaster that's going to happen between the 9th and the 10th world, the people in the 9th world are going to suffer. And how would I handle that mechanically? I mean, the Numenera is already weird, and you can have crazy ass sorts of technology that aren't understandable, and have it be, I mean, even weirder than the Numenera already is. Like, everyone already has an inability in understanding Numenera. Just give them an additional hindrance on top of that, because this stuff is just even more advanced than what was left behind.
That's a great way of handling it. Quick and easy.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed, but we reworked a lot of the stuff in the CCR so that we don't have all these weird conditional thing. Oh, you do this, and then you have to half a bonus on that. It's like, no, you know what? Can we just make so much of the book be you're hindered or you're eased? So just use that game mechanic that's fundamental thing and just avoid all the clumsy math.
Good call. Good advice. And then our last live audience question is from Robert Oldale, and they ask, is New Numenera, or they said Numenera, likely to contain its own versions of foci from the Cypher's player book, like Abides in Stone and original Numenera focus, or will it just reference those foci as options to supplement unique new Numenera foci?
I don't think we would go, like, foci take up a lot of space. Like, when I originally wrote them, I wrote the foci to be like a page, and we just kept adding more abilities. Like, and then we said, oh, you know what, we want to have you start with 2. I know you have an option of 3, blah, blah, blah. So like most of these foci take up at least 2 pages. And I wouldn't want to repeat all the information in the Numenera book when you already have that. What I could see is saying, hey, in Numenera, Abides in Stone Tier 2, you also have this ability as an option. Or this ability replaces this one from the CCR. Like, it's just expanding and modifying that. And that would just be, like one line in a paragraph. You could do weird custom modifications for that for a bunch of foci. Like, the Priest of the Eons book had a special kind of artifact called a focusing suit that basically just said, hey, this is your weird Eon Priest friend, and he knows that you are blazes with fire, blazes with radiance, of course, in Numenera. And they have made a suit, an artifact that customizes different abilities of your blazes with radiance thing. And so here are some unique abilities that only you can have because you are this focus and you have this ability. And I can see us doing that same sort of thing for Numenera, being like, yeah, you know what? For the CCR, that ability was too crazy. But for Numenera, it totally fits. Let's bring that back.
I mean, I personally, I know if we were to repeat a lot of the foci from book to book, you're going to get a ton of complaints anyway. So I think this is the best possible way of doing it. If there are some changes, just reference the change.
I like that concept a lot. Like what you said about like Abiding Stone, Tier 2, and Numenera can change it this way. And that's just how you flavor the foci into Numenera. That's an awesome way to do it. Like, I love that.
And then we'll still have new foci that are very Numenera. Like, one of the first foci that I converted was Emerge from the Obelisk. And Monty looked at it and he's like, that's really cool. Why are we converting this for the core book? That is such a weird niche focus. This is definitely a Numenera focus, not a core Cypher focus. So that'll be out there.
And,
I did notice, but there's something, just quick side tangent. So Shadowmane says here in the chat, they're talking about the whole future destroy all cool Numenera, rob yourself from the past. That's actually the premise of an adventure I did in, I think, the 10 Years of Adventure, one of the Explorer's Keys books, where you are explorers going through a ruin and you need a particular kind of iotum to open up the vault at the end of it, but all the item of that type you accidentally broke or lost. So you go back in time and you're following your own characters from like 24 hours earlier, and you're trying to find ways to be like, oh, this is when I was resting. I'm going to go up and pickpocket myself. Or, oh, this guy was in a fight. I'm going to use telekinesis to steal this thing from myself. So you're just following yourself and stealing from the past version of yourself. So yes, let's do that.
In the risk of trying to get you fired a fourth time, do you have any idea when the actual Backerkit is going to go live?
It will be soon. There are some clues to things. One, Jason and Tammy and Olivia and I are going to be at the Page convention next week, and Charles is normally the person who pushes the launch button, so it's pretty safe bet to say it's not going to be next week. But it'll be soon. Like I don't want to over-explain, but there are a lot of reasons why we don't actually announce the date ahead of time. We ask people to sign up because things might shift. Like, we could be waiting on a piece of cover art for a prototype, and the artist gets sick and they're late for a week. We don't want to wait. We don't want to have that be a sketch. We want the thing to be the final, so we push it back a little bit. Or one thing just happened this morning. I got a message from Backerkit saying, hey, there's been a lot of phishing attempts and we have reset your password. We would like you to go to the Backerkit site, log in, and create a new password for yourself. If that happened like the morning that we had announced we were going to launch, and that happened to Charles or Tammy, that would be disastrous, because it's like all these like. So instead, we just kind of wait and if Backerkit has an update, whatever. So when it's ready to go, that's when we launch it, and that's when the notifications go out. And that's why we don't want people to go, I'm ready for it, especially as in the game industry, there are so many rumors. Like, if we said this is going to launch on January 16th, and it did launch on January 16th, people would be like, oh, they've just given up on making games forever. It's like, why? Like, it's so bizarre. Like, I heard from Kate that there were some people in the UK who thought Monte Cook was a house name. He wasn't a real person, that we just published stuff under Monte Cook Games as a fake name. It's like, no, we've got photos of the guy. Like, he's been in the industry for 30 years. So it's just trying to manage information in this world where information is just full of deep fakes and AI and photoshopping. It's like, okay, can we just try and manage this?
I mean, I find that hard to believe about Monte Cook, because he's been in the industry for so long. There's like tons of videos of him. He has his career outside of Monte Cook Games is more extensive than his career inside Monte Cook Games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty weird.
It just takes one person speaking with confidence to make a rumor have some legs.
Oh, we need to start a good rumor and see how far we can get it to go.
I don't even want to touch that.
We'll sit there, we'll brainstorm and think about it. We'll go on the server, see.
What you got? Any more questions for me?
I think that there was one more question. Robert Odell just posted in the chat. Not Numenera related, but could we get the focus outlines for the playtest doc from the Cypher campaign?
And the answer is no.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. One, they're really ugly. Like, we have an internal house version that's literally drawn on like MS Paint that has all these arrows pointing around and stuff. It's not pretty. And that's like the sort of thing where we don't, like, you've seen the early release document. It's got all the header marks. It's not an easy to read document. And these diagrams would not be easy to read. And some of it is also like, those things might change as, when things get to layout and when the designers look at it one more time. Really, for everyone who's just looking at that, I would just say tier 1, 2, 3, tier 1 abilities, tier 2 abilities, tier 3 abilities. And don't worry about the connectivity of those. Like, if one says you need X, like when you use your stone body ability, well, clearly that one requires you to have stone body. But unless that is a requirement of the thing, don't worry about it for this playtest. It's not going to be messing things up if you have an ability that you shouldn't have, whatever that means. Oh, I shouldn't have +1 to my might score. Whatever, it's just +1. It's fine. I get wanting to have that level of information for completeness sake, but you really don't need it at this point.
Yeah, we'll touch on some quick things that Sean, you're running a game that was from the Backerkit from the Anywhere door, the pledge members this Friday on the CU Discord. Super excited for that. We're recording it. What game are you running, Sean? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I am running a Numenera game, a little one-shot, and there is a glimmer, a PDF called Shadewalker that is on the MCG site. It was something that I wrote long ago. And at conventions like GameholeCon, I've actually been running a sequel to Shadewalker called Machine Hearts That Hiss, and that's something that I run as part of my Patreon for some of my patrons. But that one, you just kind of like land in the town of Shadewalker and then go on to do other things. The game I'm running tomorrow is actually like set in Shadewalker. It's kind of a sequel to Shadewalker, and it's called Under Shadewalker. And like your characters show up at this weird little town, and something weird happens. And after you interact with the people, you get to do some exploration in a Numenera ruin that wasn't there before.
As someone who's had the privilege and pleasure to play with Sean multiple times as a GM, he's fantastic. So the people that backed and are getting to play with Sean this Friday on the CU Discord server are really in for a treat. And speaking of Sean run games, we can announce now that next month we're coming back for our Claim the Sky 2-shot, I guess. Was it something Rotten in Central Park was our original one? And for those that haven't watched it, go to YouTube and look at the actual plays. That was actually one of my favorite characters to play of all time, El Animal. And he was stuck in a pretty bad situation at the end of the game. So we're going to revisit that. I'm super excited for that. Al, you remember that game?
Yep. Captain Carrot. I'm very excited to revisit that. Definitely a fun character and fun concept. I had no idea that character existed before we started playing. And I was very excited to make it and play as him. And I'm excited to revisit it.
Yeah, you guys have been sitting on a cliffhanger for like 2 years since the last time we played that.
And you know what's funny? I think I told you the story, Sean, but I was coming back from a convention and I was at Port Authority, and some random police officer asked me about El Animal. First, I'm a New Yorker, so first I was a little hesitant when I saw this cop looking at me, and then he literally stopped me to ask me about that specific game. And hey, were you El Animal on YouTube?
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So yeah, if you haven't seen that game was hella cool. Yeah, check it out on the Cypher Unlimited YouTube channel. You'll catch the 2 episodes there, and I'm really excited. And Dean is coming back to play that, and Eric Frankhouse. So the entire group is going to be there. And yes, we're using the new rules too, which I'm super excited about that. We're using the new characters, so it's going to be hella fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. That'll be February. We haven't picked a date yet. And you guys have said maybe you'll spend one of your streams like converting your characters, and then the next one will be the game. Who knows? We'll see.
Yep, we're definitely planning to do that. And since we're on the Numenera kick, it's officially been confirmed. Numenera Day was switched from the 9th to the 29th because of the holiday. Everybody was really busy. So we're still planning to have a full Numenera Day on January 29th. Tomorrow morning, we'll be posting the links to for GM signups. It's essentially we're looking to run 3 shifts of games, a Euro shift and 2 North American shifts. So we're really excited for that. So be on the lookout tomorrow for that on the server. Everything's going to be done in-house on the Discord server. So if you want to be part of Numenera Day, you have to be part of the Cypher Unlimited Discord.
Yep, all signups will happen on the Discord itself, player and GM. So if you're interested in either aspect or both, definitely join up if you haven't already.
Sean, thank you so much for coming on and answering, putting up with our madness.
No, thanks, guys. There were a lot of really good questions. I appreciate everybody taking their time to post on the Discord or on Blue Sky or Facebook, and because it shows that people love the Numenera setting and the Numenera game. And I, as a person who was the original developer for the original Numenera core book, before there was a Monte Cook Games, I was Monte and Sean writing that book, and Monte said, Sean knows rules really well. I'd like you to take a look at this and give some developer feedback. So I've been part of the Numenera since not quite the very start, but the airy start without the V. So it's just great to see that this game still, people love it, and we're excited about it. I'm excited about it. I'm happy.
Is there anything that hasn't been asked that you want to let the CU audience know about the Backerkit, something we may have missed that might be important to state?
So there is one cool thing that that Shauna thought up as a reward, a Backerkit reward for this upcoming crowdfund, and I'm not going to say the name of it, but it's a unique thing, and it's just going to be a bunch of really cool Numenera surprises that you're going to be able to, let's just say, unwrap and introduce to your game, and it'll just, God, it's just a really sweet idea for a supplement for Numenera, and it totally fits it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how people react to that thing.
Oh, I'm super excited now. I mean, I was super excited before, but now even more so. Al, you got anything to add in before I go into my spiel?
No, I'm just very excited to see what that specific thing he just mentioned might be, because you know me, I love my additional supplements because I love mixing and matching my stuff. So anything that's even remotely cool, I can take it and use it wherever I please. So whatever this is, it's probably going to be amazing. I can see myself using it. So I want to know what it is.
Thank you, Sean. Before I go into my spiel, where can you be found and reach on the interwebs for those that may not know?
I mean, my link tree is in the chat, but it's linktree/Sean K Reynolds. I'm on Blue Sky. Technically, I'm on Instagram, but I never post there. It's really just come to my Blue Sky or my Patreon, and I talk about games and write stuff and sometimes get fired.
And he occasionally hops on the CU server to tell people they're wrong about a wrong statement.
That's my favorite thing, is telling people they're wrong.
If you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monte Cook Games. We have the largest fan-run Discord server for everything MCG, but if Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. Not as big as our Discord, but still great conversations being had there daily. If you can find it in the kindness of your heart, subscribe here on Twitch or go to our YouTube channel and like, share, and subscribe there. We're still trying to build both platforms up, and any help you could give us will be greatly appreciated. You could go to our online store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch like this hat I got on and many other great articles of clothing we have there as well. Or if you want to support us financially in any way, you could give us a little donation on Ko-fi. It helps us out with little things like running online conventions like CypherCon. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for coming, chatting with us. To the audience there. Thank you, Sean, for coming on, answering the questions our community had. It's been a pleasure as usual, and I am very much looking forward to playing Supers again. So yeah, everyone out there, keep an eye out for that release date, or whenever we announce we're gonna do it. And yeah, as usual, from us at the CU, we will see you later.